everyone.
Don't worry about me. I think focus is more.
You guys?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so currently on is Brendan. Brendan's my partner. He's the brains. I'm actually just the director salesman, so that you understand who's here.
Thanks, Bob.
And then Brian and Charles are they perform a couple of roles. One is that they are going to be co-developing the project with Steve's just come on with John Gumpert, who's the developer, and they also have to call out owners reps. So they
Hey guys.
on the ground with everything that we want done and making sure we double check and triple check everything. Okay. And then we just
Hello,
John. All right.
Steve.
All right. How's everyone doing?
Okay, can you all hear us?
Hello, hello.
Okay, good.
Oh, is John with you, Steve?
Yeah, sitting next to her.
Right next to me, right here.
All right. Okay, so John's the developer, and he's done many historic projects in the Greenville area. And Steve and John have worked together for many years. Steve's kind of is the guy that brings all of the debt, the tax credits, Okay. So, guys, we around the table here we got Mike. Mike's wave Mike. That's Mike.
Yeah.
And Sam and Dirk.
Right.
Okay, so they have a whole series of questions they'd just like to sort of unpack, and we can just see who wants to answer the questions. But maybe just to start off with, maybe Ryan and Charles, you can introduce yourselves and a little bit of history.
Okay. Before we get started, I'm Ryan. Before we get started, we're still waiting on Michael Graham, the attorney. He is currently stuck in traffic, so he should be popping up here any minute now. And when he does, I would like to maybe pivot and cover his issues first, and then we can have Michael get off and we can continue about the project after that.
Sure.
But yeah. Well, I'm Ryan, and Charles and I are acting as owners reps on behalf of Infiniti in this project, as well as co-developers on the ground here every day. John and Steve are co-developers. We have a large team. This is a large project. It's a lot of fun. It's complicated, so we need everyone's expertise. And we've been working with Kevin and Brendan for nearly a year now. Almost. Wow, time has flown. So we've done a few other projects together. We're really excited about working with Infiniti and working with you guys on this, and happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, okay, just to kick off with, can you just run through a bit about a previous project you've done? How many units there were, and just sort of talk us through that a bit? Time frames, period, occupancy, how long it took to fill, the kind of rentals you projected, the kind of rentals that you actually realized, just that kind of conversation flow.
Okay, let me take that since I've done the most historic projects. And the first one was probably back in early 2000. It was in and this is going to be somewhat of a long description because I really think it summarizes a whole project. So I'll take you from where I started to where we are today. So starting, I was a construction manager on a 150 unit historic rehab in Atlanta. And I was brought in by a client I had where I did numerous projects for, and they brought me into this new type of development. And they were double their construction budget. They had a $10 or $12 million budget, and their bids were coming in at 20, 24 million to redo it. So I looked at it and said, we can introduce residential contractors rather than commercial, and we can get this project within your budget, although nobody's going to come down here and live in this thing. It's a crazy project. No one's coming to live in one of these loft conversions. And they said, effectively, great, we've got $3 million of our own money into this deal, so we're not interested in your opinion as to whether the deal works. Just get the thing built. So we, in fact, did get the thing built, and it leased up immediately at whatever their pro forma was or better. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish I wasn't so vocal about how stupid I thought their project was, because it was an enormous success. So I went directly from that effort to Knoxville, Tennessee, and started my second historic redevelopment, which was of the largest high-rise in a part of the city called Old Town. We got it done, still own it today. It hasn't been less than 98% occupied, and we've been above pro forma our whole time. On that project, the market analyst, it was a very early project for HUD financing. We were trying to couple historic credits with HUD financing. Our market analyst came back to us and said, I don't know if you people know this or not, but there aren't 9 people living in downtown Knoxville. You're building a 100-unit apartment deal. I don't know who he thinks can come down here and live. But coming off the success of the last project, I said, no, this will work fine. We convinced HUD to do it. They said, it'll probably take you 24 months to lease it up. So if you put a big enough lease-up reserve in, we'll finance the deal. Got the thing done. 3 months later, we were full. So it leased up in 3 months, largely to students, which we didn't project. But it's been running for 15 years now, and it's been a success every year. So at the end of the day, these projects are unique. They're unique because of the nature of the building itself. It's a historic structure. You got exposed brick, exposed wood, concrete floors. If you look at the occupancy of a given market, and I'll make up a number, let's say the vacancy in Greenville is 6%. The vacancy in historics will be close to 0, because there is a limited supply of that type product, and it just fills up. So when we get to the Woodside mill, normally, and I've done, to answer your question, I've done probably 12 historic projects. All have been successful in some capacity or another. When you look at the Woodside mill, we are typically the pioneers. We are typically the first mill in, or the first historic building in a downtrodden area. We come in and redo our mill, the area comes back up, and you realize the value of the mill once that area comes back up. In this instance, we're the last in. We have 2 mills on either side of us that have already been redeveloped and are already successful and are already renting at levels higher than what we're projecting. So this is an unusual scenario for me. I was telling the rest of the team, I had lunch in the Woodside Mill, or West Village, which is right next to, which serves Woodside Mill. And, there's already a coffee shop. There's already a nice restaurant. There's already all the retail spaces in that village are being redeveloped. So normally we come in and lead that process, put our project in, fill it up, and then those things happen. Today we've got 2 predecessors to us, and it's already occurring. So it's an unusual deal from my perspective because of that. But I think if you talk to a market analyst, for example, when we finance these through HUD, their market analysts say, okay, we get the demand for historic. We get that, will be no problem. They're not big on commercial, but they will tell you that from a residential standpoint, they do great. So, that's been my history with them. I think they're great projects. Typically, though, we are out in the country somewhere trying to convince investors and market analysts that we can attract people out to the country to live in these unique structures, which does work. In this instance, we're a mile and a half out of downtown Greenville, and we're a quarter mile from West Village. Should be great.
Thank you. Tommy, the previous mill that you did, how many apartments was that, give or take?
Well, that's anything from a construction manager, where my challenge was to get the project built at a certain budget. For example, on the first one that I did, they were substantially over budget. They had a contingency, and if I spent the contingency, we would the developer would make no fee. So the challenge was to get it built on a particular budget, which we did, and that was probably a $15 million project. And again, it was back in early 2000s. Since then, I've played roles from CM on both the contractor side and on the developer side, and then developed on my own, where I've been a co-developer, and I've co-developed on every project I've ever done. The last one we did was a mill very similar to Woodside, 200 units. It's currently 100, and we finished about a year ago. It's currently 100% leased, above pro forma. It has a commercial component that's about 100,000 square feet, which is trailing way behind the residential. We have not been successful on that. We've done a number of tenant spaces that we funded out of our own pocket, and those tenants are not able to pay rent at this point. So commercial is a much tougher animal to do. And that's why we're not really featuring commercial on this site.
So on the previous one that had 200 units you mentioned, how long did it take to actually fill the occupancy?
I think we averaged about 15 units a month, and this was in a small community about 20 miles outside of Charlotte. So it was not as we really had to pull from about a 30-mile radius, but we were eventually successful in doing that. In fact, the residential was really not much of an issue at all.
And when was that completed, that last mill that you're referring to now?
We finished about a year and a half ago, I'd say. Maybe we finished 2 years ago, and we leased it up probably a year ago.
And has the mill since then, well, all those units, has it been revalued and seen much in capital appreciation?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't revalued it, but there's no question it's improved in value. I mean, I think I can probably speak more for the Knoxville one that, I think that thing's probably valued. It's gone up at least half. It went from 7 million to probably 12 million or 14 million.
Okay. And did you enjoy the same tax breaks as this one that's come up now?
No, we did on the first one that we did. We only had federal credits. That's all that were available in Tennessee, and so that equated to probably 15% of the capital stack. On the last big one we did, we were instrumental in passing the mill credit. So you get federal credits, you get state credits, and then this mill credit that we actually passed. When I say we passed, just colleagues of ours lobbied for it in North Carolina. South Carolina adopted it, and North Carolina has since sunsetted it. But these credits on this one, so on the project in Tennessee, I had credits worth about 15% of the capital stack. Our current credits at Woodside are worth about 40% of the capital stack. So that's really why I'm focusing my efforts on the Carolinas, specifically South Carolina, because the credit market and the credit subsidies available are so much higher.
And if I could piggyback, John, on the valuation of that mill in Gastonia, they're actually beginning phase 2.
Yes.
Here shortly, which will be how many more units, John? If you touch on phase 2, so how phase 1?
It's another 100 units, no commercial, and that once that's built out, and by the way, what you see, The hidden opportunity is that the neighborhood around these mills, once you put that investment in, it automatically upgrades. So everyone paints their house or everyone sells their house to people that renovate their house, and all of a sudden the mill village becomes very valuable and highly desirable. And it just, there's just this energy to people redeveloping as you redevelop. Again, in Woodside, we've already got 2 mills that preceded us. We've already got West Village that, you'd be hard pressed to find a building to buy there now. And as an example, when I did the project in Knoxville, I thought we were going to do 5 more projects. I thought we had 5 more buildings that we would pick up and just continue. As soon as we put a dumpster in front of the building, all those buildings tripled in price, and we didn't develop another one in that neighborhood. That neighborhood is now fully redeveloped, and it's a cool place to be. So we expect Woodside and West Village to be the new cool place to be, and I don't think there's any question about it. It's not much of a reach at this point.
Well, and it's not totally subjective, because in the year and a half we've been working on this, every single shop on the main street, which leads ultimately to the mill, was dilapidated. Now, I think every one of them is renovated and done. Restaurants, coffee shops, bicycle shops, stuff that younger people do. So it's already taken place there.
And a lot of that's because of the other 2 mills. But, we have, ours is larger, so we have the bulk of the residential, which should be a real boost to them.
How are the rental incomes compared to this previous mill, that your last one you've done with the 200 apartments?
Well, it's an interesting question. I sent early on, the way we do these projects is we send to our market analysts and get a demand study, and have them, before we do another thing, tell us about the demand, tell us if we're on the right track or not. So I told our demand analysts that I was thinking of doing a mix of affordable and market rents. So he came back to me and he said, I don't think you understand the market, which is never something you want to hear. But I said, all right, tell me about it. He said, downtown Greenville is a AA. You'll get over $2 a foot in rent. Your project is an A. You'll get over $1 in rent per foot. Spartanburg is a B, and your project in Gastonia is a C. Now, at the time, I thought my project in Gastonia was the center of the world. Turns out it was not. It was the least attractive of the 3 markets. So he said, you're going all market here, and you'll get substantially higher rents than what I initially projected. And even my rents that we're projecting now are significantly below our 2 comparable competitors.
Right.
And we think we will do a better job on amenities and things like that, because that's what we did in Gastonia, and it worked very well.
Much stronger amenities package, and it's coming in at 30% below the one that's I don't know if those
Right. Yeah, so those mills, their discounted lease-up rents were significantly higher than our pro forma rents. And now that they're full, those mills are since been leased up. The Brandon mill is the one I believe that Brendan and Kevin were able to tour. It has since been full, and their rents are significantly higher than ours are going to, or that we're performing them to be. So we have a little bit of room there, some buffer in the market rates, and that's why we feel so strongly about this project.
Now, I think if you go to the Monaghan mill, which is the other mill, it's been fully occupied for 10 years. You'll see the same thing. Their stabilized rents are substantially higher than where we are.
And I believe I heard Kevin right. Our amenities package will surpass theirs. They don't have the capabilities to create this campus-like feeling that we can create at Woodside just due to its size. We have the opportunity to create something totally unique, even in that market, which consists of historic mills. We will still be a very unique, top-of-the-line product at a lesser rent.
How far thanks for your feedback and very informative. Tell me those mills you talked about earlier in the last one. How far is that from the one you're proposing now?
Well, the
We've got
brand
one
mill, which
the earliest one built is within a mile of us on the same street. And the latest one redone is within half a mile of us on the other side of the village. So they're all proximate to each other. They'd all be considered in the same neighborhood.
Okay, so you comfortable with the escalation in building costs and all these extra amenities? This could still come in at a below rental than the current mills.
absolutely.
Well, one of the benefits in our project is we've got 300 units, which is a good bit more than the other two, which means you can average your amenity cost over more units. So the actual cost per unit for those amenities is probably less than what those folks spent.
Okay, makes sense. Okay.
It's on a 16-acre site, so it's a big site.
And the net yield before tax on the rental, what percentage do you more or less come out at, give or take?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The net yield before tax. So after all expenses, everything, before tax has to get paid. Just a rough idea, what do you see as the rental yield? Around 6% per annum, 10%, 8%? What do you project your yield at?
So the debt coverage ratio is what?
Well, we've got a very high cost. Ryan, you may have a better handle than this than I do. We've got a very high cost construction loan, obviously. We know that. But I think the coverage on that is about 110. Is that about right? On a 9.99% loan?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull the sheet up and give you the right number.
How about the permanent debt, the agency financing?
Right.
What would that be?
At permanent, it's really good. It's like 1.3, 1.4.
Right.
And when we say that, guys, we're saying 130 to 140% of debt service coverage is the cash flow that falls down the waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question, let's just translate to American quickly, is
Thank you.
they're looking for the cash on cash, guys.
Okay.
So if we can look at the cash on cash after debt servicing, that would give us a net yield of probably in the region of 10 to 12%, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're putting in $5 million, we can expect around $500,000 to $600,000 of net income at stabilization, thereabouts.
Right. Now, the thing to remember with the cash on cash return is that in this model at refinance, all the cash should come out.
Yeah.
So really, your cash on cash is infinite, but
yeah, it's going to be infinite, but we just want to be able to measure it in terms of the cash going in. So
if we left it as is.
Yeah.
Sorry. Now that I think I understand the question a little bit better, yeah. So after debt service, after everything's all said and done at permanent loan, and with the tax credits, what is cash is a little bit different than just putting the check in. But yeah, we would start at about 11% cash on cash there.
One thing, guys, that's most interesting about this project and the tax credits is that while the gross credits are about $20 million, in year 7, they essentially go away. We have a put. It's not a big number, but they essentially go away. So that equity sits with us, not with the credit investors. So that's one of the cool things about this is that while we certainly think we'll hit a double-digit annualized return, we've got this big pop coming when the credits go away. And essentially they go away, they sunset.
When you mentioned that figure earlier, that yield, what occupancy were you working on?
93%.
93.
So essentially 280 out of the 303 units would be occupied. What we see in the market is that occupancy is higher than that. However, for the purposes of underwriting a permanent loan, 93% is really the benchmark that everybody's going to look for nationwide. So 93% is the figure we're using in our own underwriting as well.
All right.
How do you source tenants when you look for your tenants? How do you source your tenants? You're advertising, you're searching.
Right. We will hire a management company. Right now, we're looking at Greystar. Seems to be the leader in the clubhouse for as far as management companies. They have extensive experience in the Greenville market. They know all the products very well. They'll have an aggressive marketing campaign. But these mills turn out to be destinations in and of themselves. Their redevelopment will make the local papers. We'll host events there for the local government. That's something that we've done in some of the extra event space that we have, just to get people walking the mill. We're looking at some getting the community involvement on the property. So just to get people walking and looking at it, hosting like a weekly farmers market type event. So all those things are happening, but we're really going to lean heavily on the expertise of our management company, who has extensive experience in that market and with this product.
And I might add that there's the management companies that has extensive experience hosting events and drawing traffic to the mill. Mm-hmm. So we feel like the initial lease up will be accomplished through that without much trouble because of the amenities we're offering. In addition to that, we do have a public event space on the property. At Luray, which is the sister mill, we probably host 150 weddings a year. And so that brings a lot of the public through the project on a continual basis. And that's one way we keep our occupancies up, because we expose the product to so many people in these public events. And as time goes on, we'll probably put a brewery on site, operated by a third-party tenant, but that will also bring people into the project. So the interesting thing about these projects is it's not, if you look at our two competitors on the same street, they have a big fence with a gate around it. So if you don't live there, you don't go in there. Our project will not be fenced, and we'll invite the public in for various events. So we feel like we'll have more traffic than most.
Right. We feel that the Woodside has the opportunity to be a community center within this West Village Arts District. It's just the perfect type community to just really seamlessly tie in our property as kind of a community center. We've talked to, as John said, breweries. We've spoken to several coffee roasters, those who host weekly farmers markets and food truck type events. This area is perfect for that. And we have a great the property is so large that we can create this campus feel and accommodate all these weekly uses to drive daily traffic. Instead of just having this massive property where you have 300 tenants and it feels empty, we're trying to really make it a community center.
Ryan, the report was originally done over a year ago. Why is the project not underway yet?
I can answer that. I mean, these historic mills take forever to get done. People always ask me, or my teammates have asked me, why is it taking so long to get this deal done? I feel like we are ahead of schedule. The last large mill I did, granted, we went through the financial, the end of the last cycle, but it took 7 years to get done through HUD. So this is about as quick as you're going to get one of these done. They're very complicated. You have environmental issues you've got to resolve. You've got historic issues you've got to resolve. You've got, the design process. So this is actually, if you can get one of these done within 2 years, you're doing fine. And I would never tell anybody that you're going to get them done any faster than 2 years, because they are complicated. That it's not a ground-up garden apartment, which I build plenty of. This is a unique scenario. And that's why you're getting the tax credits that you're getting.
Right.
You said that. So what you're saying is with all the environmental and historic and all of that, we have similar problems here. You say it could take 7 years. Your numbers are not based on 7 years from now. And I think my biggest question is, if it's such a good deal, surely you would find a lot of investors falling over themselves in your direct catchment area who would want to become involved in the project, whether it be bankers or private individuals.
It's still a unique development opportunity. I mean, it still entails a bunch of different moving pieces. So it's a unique investment. It's a unique project. It is unfortunately getting more competitive. So there are more and more of these projects being built. People are getting more comfortable with them. I can tell you the project I did in Knoxville was the first project that HUD actually did work with with federal credits. So there are, it's complicated because of all the tax credits and how you're layering that financing. So there are not a lot of folks out there that are comfortable or experienced in that process. So it's still a rather new industry, although there's becoming more and more competition. There are in the region, and I know most every mill in the region because I'm looking at every mill in the region. There are probably 4 active projects being built now.
Let me add a little color.
Can I chip in over there, John? It's Brendan over here. One of the key opportunities we find from Infiniti's side is 2 main things. Is one, we were introduced to John through another partner of ours that we're doing a development with in Tennessee. So the opportunity that came across our desk to have a look at this mill was very much through relationships and a bit of timing. We were in the right place at the right time. And Randy introduced us to Al, who had already underwritten this deal and was quite comfortable to go ahead with his own money. And we did a deal with Al and said, well, we're looking for more deals. We've got hungry investors on this side of the ocean that are always looking for good places to park their money, that are safe, that can produce the returns with a quality team behind them. And as a result of us getting introduced to John and to Al through a mutual partner where we're currently in the ground on a project already, that gave us some comfort to look into this project because it was within the network. It didn't come from a broker that said, hey, why don't you buy this? It looks like a great deal. It very much came through our network. And as a result of our network, we're able to present it to our investors in South Africa. It's not a case of, let's take a deal that nobody can raise money on in America and go sell it to South Africans. Very much not that.
No. Yeah, let me add a little color if I can as well. When we started this project about 1.5 years ago, there were 14, I think is the number, national, super regional, and regional bank prospects for financing it. We thought there'd be no problem. You've got a loan that's essentially 60% of value. In the 1.5 years since that time, there are no banks in the market, essentially because of Dodd-Frank, federal legislation that limits banks' exposure. Most of the large banks are overexposed in multifamily, so they've just pulled back and they prefer to do deals only with customers that are existing customers. So the financing world certainly changed in the time that we've been working on this. We had no trouble with state, federal credits. There were a number of offers that we had. We picked what we thought was the best one. So we have what we would consider a non-conventional type lender on the thing, but it was a lender and it allowed us to move forward with the project. So there was I don't think there was a turning away from it because it wasn't a sound project or is a sound project. It was a matter of the marketplace. And
do you have financials, feasibility that we could have sight of?
I'm sorry, we didn't get that.
I said, do you have financials, feasibility that we could have sight of to see how you stack up your process going forward?
Yes, we've used a national CPA firm, Cohn Resnick it's called. They are, for better or worse, they're the industry guru, and they've done our analyses on this. That's gone out to the investors. And Brendan, I think you may have a copy of that as well. We really go back to them, and unfortunately, we don't like to keep going back to them because they're not the cheapest guys in the world, but they're the industry, benchmark.
So just some insight into that. We're happy to share that with you guys. Absolutely. We have it, but obviously that's looking at it from a project perspective. So you'll get an insight into the entire project and the construction costs and how the state credits and stuff work. It's quite a complicated document to work through. And Charles and I are in the process of simplifying that for some investors. Some people don't want to read an entire accountant's model that's about 100 pages long. So Charles and I are in the process of simplifying that and getting it right down so that we can see the investor's perspective as well based on the deal that we're presenting. But we would happily share that with you. So Ricky, just remind me that I print it out or put it in the Dropbox for you.
Sure. Do you guys maybe feel that from the bank's perspective, they're feeling a bit nervous, given that currently there are 1,362 units under construction and coming on the market with another 1,028 in the pipeline? You know, I'm just thinking supply and demand. You know, Brendan, I don't know where in South Africa you're from, but the Greenville area has got a population less than Stellenbosch. So to drop a development of that size when you've already got so much supply coming on stream, that is one of our greatest concerns.
I think if you look at the historic projects, you'll see that they're fully occupied with waiting lists. So we're effectively reaching out to that historic market. There's no question there are a lot of units coming online for Greenville. Greenville is the strongest market in South Carolina, and it's based largely on what they've done with their downtown corridor, and they've just done a great job. They've got a lot of industry moving in. We feel like, although there is a tremendous amount of product, I think we compete favorably to that product, both from a rental rate and from a uniqueness of product and from a location. So we feel that, you know, we look at it as we've got 300 units out of a market that we think will absorb that. And, you know, so our market analysts said that would work. And then we put it out to our property management groups who are third party and said, do you think you can make this work? You know, give us your take on it. So far, all the feedback has been very strong.
Yeah, and what I would say is that we are cognizant of the supply that's coming online. However, based on our delivery, you know, the multifamily cycle has had a very good run over the past 7 years. I would say that we are coming in towards the end of the cycle, not in the middle or the beginning of the cycle. So, you know, we have the benefit of delivering late, which means we get to understand what the other projects are doing. We can figure out how to be competitive with each and every one of them. However, to your point, you know, the banks are a little bit uncomfortable because they do have a lot of exposure because it has been a very hot market, not only in Greenville, but nationwide, especially in the Southeast, over the past 7 years. So I think there is concern from traditional banks, not necessarily because Greenville itself is too hot of a market, but because they're just generally overexposed throughout the Southeast and throughout the country. However, you know, I think that is where the historic tax credits sort of take a lot of the risk out. If we were to need to raise $25 million in a capital stack, this deal wouldn't be feasible, and we'd have to deliver at double our pro forma rents. What the tax credits do is allow us to lower our basis effectively and deliver at a lower rental rate as a result. So even with all these other units coming online, their rental rates aren't necessarily competitive with ours.
But Charles, in terms of what John said, it doesn't seem like you are totally sure when you're going to be able to bring this thing online.
Well, I think what John was talking about was the development process of how long it took to get to the point where you're breaking ground. You know, once you've been through the design phase, you've jumped through all the hoops with the National Park Service, with the local governments, with whatever environmental issues, and you actually close and break ground, the project gets built and it leases up quickly. It's the pre-development process that usually takes so long. And John, step in.
Yeah, what I would say is that we're not going to start the project until we have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So once we start, we have a complete package to finish, down to choosing the light fixtures and the plumbing fixtures.
Right. But John,
and that can't be understated. It is so important. We will have done all the environmental testing and planning So like I say, when we start, we can finish, and we have a very detailed schedule on how to go from start to first lease up. And then the project just happens to lay out very favorably. I mean, the first units delivered will be the leasing office and the units around it, which is inside the mill.
Do you have your environmental and historical approvals in place?
Yes. To give an example, we will install the biggest issue with historic on a project like this, which is not a very complicated historic project, is the window refurbishment and the paint removal and sealing of the wooden brick. We will do examples of both those items. We'll put a historic window, a replica window in place. We'll do sandblasting or something like sandblasting to remove the paint, and we'll seal it. We'll have the state representative come out and approve it, and that's before we start. So before we close a construction loan, we'll have that done.
So we have our, to clarify, we have the approval from the National Park Service for the tax credits. I mean, the buyers are committed. That part is taken care of. The environmental, we've entered into the contract with the local office. All those things are buttoned up.
Right, but what I'm saying is those are buttoned up. We do have our part 2, which is what the approval is. But we take it a step further. And we bring the representatives out to say, okay, you approved us replacing the windows and cleaning the wooden brick. Now we're actually going to do a sample of it. We want you to prove what we just did. So it's a little bit of a, over the projects that I've done, I've just learned to get ahead of that curve. Only helps the process.
John, tell me what guarantees do we have?
Guarantees in what way?
Guarantees on against the money that you're asking for. So let's say hypothetically you're asking for, let's say 10 million. I'll give you 10 million. What guarantees do I have against that? Where does ownership of the property lie at the moment?
We don't own the property at the moment. We're purchasing it over the next, I guess, over the next 30 days.
I think let me jump in over there and just give some clarity, as we're in the process of buying this at the moment, and the guys have been in their phase of doing all of the environmentals, doing all the permitting, getting everything done for well over a year now, and we're coming in right at the end in order to close on the mill and actually take ownership of it. We'll then own it in a special purpose vehicle, a limited liability company that would then have all the partnerships in with all the agreements in place that define the relationships and the joint venture agreements between everybody. So that's a very clear-cut, transparent process where the operating agreement is shared with all the partners prior to closing. We're in the process of drafting right now. So all of that stuff is currently taking place. In terms of guarantees for the money, there's very much no guarantee. We're putting in equity into a real estate project, and we've got to believe in it and roll it out accordingly. In terms of guarantees of what the product is that's actually going to be delivered, that's a different question entirely, because John can go into a bit of detail on what we call a GMP or a guaranteed maximum price contract, which definitely removes a hell of a lot of the risk from a development project. Yes, Sam, sorry.
Right. Before we even get into what the product is,
yes,
how much are you paying for the mill?
Paying $4.5 million plus closing roughly for the actual mill.
For the actual mill.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what we'd like to understand is, so we want ownership in that. So the guarantee is against the property. So you want money. So okay, these are SPV. We put in X. So equity. Yeah. Our equity. Yes. That is the security.
Yes.
And because the last mill that was acquired, which was also in the vicinity of 11, was 435,000 square feet, was bought for 1.9 million. So now you're sitting in the heated market and you're paying 4.5. You think that's a reasonable price?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the reason that mill has sat vacant for as long as it has, and I've followed it for probably 6 years, is that the market just wouldn't support the rental price. Rental rates have gone up so much in the last 3 years that all of a sudden the asking price has not only equalized, it's actually probably below market. If we don't do this mill, there are folks ready to step in and purchase it at a higher price than we're paying. And that's just simply something that Steve spoke of earlier, and that is that West Village has improved so dramatically in the last 2 years since we've had the building under contract that the mill has grown in value, not decreased. The other thing I would say is just on the guarantees. We will have guarantees. We will have actionable commitments from our tax credit investors, and those will be dependent on us reaching a CO, certificate of occupancy, for the product that we're describing. We will have a bonded GC tied to a specific set of drawings to deliver for a guaranteed maximum price that product. So that really is the guarantee. It starts at, what are your investors obligated to do, and what's the trigger, and how are we protecting that trigger? And that trigger is with a surety bond on the general contractor. There's no occupancy hurdles. There's none of that plays into it. So there's not a risk on that side. It's just simply putting the product in place. And we go through great lengths to get the product fully designed before we start.
Okay. How much do you see the contract value at?
We are going to look at the contract value at $34 million, and that $34 million will have a contingency of probably $750,000 within the GMP, and we'll carry another $2 million of contingency on top of that, which we hope to save and use that as a way to repay some of the equity.
Okay. How much money of your own are you putting in? We're still determining that based on how much money we've got into it so far. So we've been working on it for 1.5 years or so. I've probably worked on it a little longer than that. And, so far we have all our money into it. We're not getting reimbursed for anything. So there may be an opportunity to leave some of that investment still in the mill. Yeah, well, and probably that's a risk capital that you can't really quantify and don't really get back at a later stage. But I think what I'd really like to have a look at, Brandon, if you can assist us here, is to look at the feasibility, how the numbers stack up.
Yes.
Here's the price, here's the development, here are the contingencies, professional fees. Who takes what out of the thing. If we're going to be involved, it's got to be transparent.
Absolutely. And
how you get to your 11% return. So I need to see expenses, income, but the actual how the thing stacks up. Perfect.
We'll get that through to you as fast as possible. I'm happy to share our working model with you immediately, the Resnick model, and Charles and I will tighten up the simplification model just so that it's easy to read over the next day or two, and I'll get that through to you as fast as possible.
Well, we also, I don't know if it's been provided to them, we do have the feasibility study performed by the market analyst, which was finished in, I think, fall of last year. And we also have the appraisal from the same analyst that was just done probably 2 weeks ago that'll have the most up-to-date numbers and comps and stuff like that in there.
I think provide the.
I think Charles, Sam's talking mostly about the pro forma calculation so that he can see where everybody's getting paid, how everybody's getting paid, and how we get to our numbers. So
okay, that works.
I think we're interested in hearing your response as well. I am anyway. That I enjoy other people looking at our models and weighing in on them and saying, "Here's what we think makes sense. Here's what we think doesn't make sense." I think it's just interesting to hear other folks' perspectives. I know what I think about it. I'd be interested to learn what your thoughts are.
Are any of you investing in the project itself going forward with regards to owning units, apartments?
You can't know. It's multi-family. It's not set. It's not set.
You know,
We all have, there are investments. Ryan and Charles have money in it. Brendan and I put money in it. Okay.
You're right. So I would say Ryan and Charles, we're investing in it. Steve and John brought us this deal. They have extensive experience working with government programs, different tax credit situations, whether it be low income or historic. And John brings the expertise of actually developing the historic project. Charles and I, as acting as owners reps, also represent Al Saad, who has funded the pursuit costs to date to the tune of about $800,000. And he's going to be a co-investor alongside you guys, should you choose to invest, as will Charles and I, and Brendan and Kevin. And you have, of course, these still doesn't require a ton of equity because we have $20 million of tax credits in front of everybody. And those are the most stringent dollars with the most regulations tied to them. So they have underwritten this deal and each member of this team extensively because those federal tax credit dollars, especially that federal investor, has very strict guidelines in order to realize their return via the tax credits.
Are there other mills, financial, let's just say, opportunity along the same lines as this opportunity? Or they structured it differently?
You're going to see most of them probably structured like this one. However, this one is in uniquely great condition. So we do have a bit more flexibility than most mills. And John, you could probably speak more to this. We got this one and was able to move probably a little faster than most due to its condition currently. John, if you want to.
What I would say is that this mill is in a uniquely strong market. And I mean, I've told my team over and over again, do not use this mill as a template for what we're going to do going forward because you won't find these opportunities.
Yeah.
There are other mills available, although they're becoming limited. But you're not going to find other mills. You'll find mills 12 miles outside of the city. And you'll be convincing yourself that you can lure people out 12 miles because 12 miles isn't that long. It's still you're going to have to convince yourself of that. This mill is uniquely located. It's why it's more expensive than you might like, but it's not as expensive as it should be. So I think there will be similar transactions. Will there be 300-unit transactions? Not as often. Will there be mills in as good a shape as this one is in? Not as often. So I think this is a unique opportunity, and I wouldn't use this as a gauge for future ones. Future ones will be more risky. Future ones will be more difficult to put together. To be outside of the Greenville market, which is the strongest, one of the strongest for sure in South Carolina. Maybe Charleston is as strong. But, so there's some characteristics about this particular mill that are superior to the other options that are out there. And I look at mills literally all the time and try to find the next opportunity.
Well, not only that, we look at apartments all the time. More conventional, like the big bulk of the inventory coming online all over the United States, and as Charles said, especially in the Southeast. And despite this rush of A-plus apartments, pricing is absolutely off the charts. Doesn't seem to be dented at all. Money is chasing these deals. So one thing is there's a multifamily element, but the other thing is, and it's so critical, the uniqueness of this product type, that there's only so many. Even in the city of Atlanta, there are only so many. So that's a clear differentiator, we think.
Okay, thanks. Tell me, on previous mills, has there been situations where the clients who are renting are able to buy their properties, buy their apartments?
Well, the unique exit strategy for this project is to convert them to condominiums and sell them at a much higher rate than, say, you would if you sold the discounted cash flows. So that is the plan. I, however, have not sold any of these assets because I have partners in all my deals. My partners don't want to sell for various reasons. But a great exit unique to this product type is you can convert them into condos. They do have a market demand for that. So that's the end game to the exit strategy for the project would be a condo. So, you go into a downtrodden area. The mill went bankrupt 20 years ago. The neighborhood went bankrupt. The houses went into disrepair. Now you come in and restore this mill. All the houses around come back up. The market value for the product comes up, and then you've got something to sell. Now, I've seen folks do these where they convert them to condos day one, and they miss that market appreciation. So the market appreciation is just free value that you get for the effort you put in. And that's probably a 10-year cycle.
I want to just jump in over there. Sorry, Michael, just to add to it, when we were driving around Greenville, having a look at the local market, trying to understand it ourselves, we noticed a few things. A lot of times property is just a common sense business. You look at what's going on in the local market. Is there employment? Are there people moving there? Where are those people coming from? What kind of age groups are there? Just to get an idea of, are there tenants and can they afford to pay the rent at the end of the day? And I got very comfortable from that perspective. From a perspective of, we've got two malls that are right around the corner with similar type of products. We're coming in at a rental pro forma of almost 30% less than them. So at the end of the day, even if we can't get new tenants from the existing pool of people that are there, we're going to steal them away because if you do the basic math, if somebody can move in, if they've got an existing lease and the guy's 25 or 30 years old and he's paying $1,500 a month, and he can move to a brand new apartment that's just been built at his lease renewal for $1,200 to $1,300 a month, and it's more or less the same size or a little bit bigger. It's got better amenities. It's got a better feel for it. It's closer to the little Westville village. It's got its own coffee shop on site, that type of stuff. We can literally just steal those tenants away from those people at renewal, because a 30% saving on that is literally a new car in the USA. Because if you're going from $1,500 a month to $1,200 a month, that $300 is a significant difference on their cost of living if they're only earning $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So from that perspective, it gave me a lot of comfort of affordability for this type of product on the market. And then what I did is I reverse engineered is if they're willing to pay right now in that market $1,300 to $1,500 a month, what does that equate to as a bond repayment as a first-time home buyer for a condo? And it worked out to a value of, let's say, $280,000 for a condo in that market. And that would be a reasonably affordable type of situation. So as an exit plan at some point in the future to convert them to condos, I think we would make a lot of money doing that. Whether we would need to do that or not is a completely different question, because as multifamily is such a economically resilient product in the US that you can sell it at a 5.5% to 6% cap rates all day long in a market very, very, very quickly, which would give you a yield and a capital growth and a profit exit really well without having to go through all the effort of marketing 300 units in a local market. So there is an opportunity to just sell on in future. Whether we would sell on or not, if I've got a beautiful cash flowing project, I don't know. We'd have to discuss that in a few years' time.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. We look forward to getting that feasibility from you, Brendan.
Yes, cool. I'll get it to you as fast as possible.
While we have you guys, Michael Graham did join. He is the attorney who will be the escrow agent for your funds. I believe you had some specific questions for Michael, and while we have him, if you'd like to cover that.
A question I would like to ask is just rounding off numbers. So say, for example, you need X amount to start, all right? What is your figure that you must kick in before the product commences? So in other words, people start putting a bit of money into the pot. Let's say, for example, let's say it's $4 million US, but let's say you need $6 million for the bank to finance the rest. What is the button that makes it start going? Is it 5 million, 6 million, 3 million? Because what I'm getting at is that one doesn't want to be in a situation where you go to put $2 million in the pot and you haven't quite reached the the amount that you need. Now they get going because you're under pressure because you bought this property now, and now you're not getting other investors in, and now it could be a challenge.
I'll say the total equity ask is $5 million because we have so many tax credits in front. From what we've already have on our side and what Kevin and Brendan are bringing, that's largely what it's going to cost to take down the mill. So once we purchase the mill and we contribute that to the project as equity, there will be no additional equity raised. So once we buy the mill, we're not waiting on any other dollars.
How much are you still needing to reach your target of say $500 US?
Brendan?
Kev, where are we at the moment? I think we're at about 4.5, somewhere around there. I think we're pretty close, actually. In terms of actual money moved, we've got about $2 million in escrow already, and we've got the balance on verbal commitments, but a lot of people can't move their money on time and battle to get tax clearances and all the rest of that stuff. But yeah, we have a significant amount of money still to raise. Yeah. What we've done, just to give you guys comfort, is Infiniti is actually going to bridge that relentless and regardless. So we're strong believers in the deal already in terms of Kevin, Jared, and myself. And whatever amount is short at closing, we're putting it in. So we're going ahead.
So it's first come, first serve, kind of, Brendan, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. It's first come, first serve. And very much whoever's moved their money to escrow first. How we typically do these projects is Michael Graham opens a dedicated escrow account for the project because we like to have our projects ring-fenced in a dedicated trust account that can be audited later on, so that we know all of our investors' money went into one account. It's not mixed with anybody else's money. And then from there, he moves it. So we never actually touch the money. It goes to Michael's account under a commitment letter. And then once all the documentation is signed and you've got your operating agreement and you're happy with it and you've got the final numbers and all the rest of that stuff, then you can say, okay, I'm happy to sign the operating agreement and happy to release the funds from Michael's escrow account into the closing, very much like our conveyancing attorney. So whoever's going to be the closing title attorney, Michael will move those funds to the title attorney, and then they'll close on the project, and we'll take take transfer and take ownership of the project. And that money only moves when you're happy with it and you release the commitment from Michael to allow it to move. We can't instruct Michael to move it. The money's in your sort of escrow account with Michael, and he can only move it under the investor's direct, say so. So from that perspective, it's very much protected. And if you choose not to go ahead, we usually just bridge it out from Infiniti's side anyway, and we'll take up the stack and we close relentless and regardless, because we can't have a situation where we can't close because an investor's uncomfortable. So we just commit to the guys and we make sure it happens. Michael, is there any insight you want to give there on your side from your attorney's office?
So, Brendan, I think that pretty much covered it. What we do here in South Carolina, we serve all 46 counties from right here in the middle of the state. Although the way that you all have been talking today, I think my wife and I may be headed to Greenville to live. But, so our office, our team is actually here to assist you and whoever else our clients are in sort of being a presence for you here on the ground. And sort of the genesis of that was several years ago when I left a fairly large law firm that I was managing. I elected to choose with whom I would work. And what that means is our team can offer a spectrum of services, everything from contract to closing to buying and selling businesses, all the way down to handling escrow accounts. And so we want to mitigate the risk, and we want to provide sunshine on the entire process. So that means we only work with a few people. Most of our clients are out of state, and I would say that Brendan and Kevin and Jared certainly qualify for out of state. And the reason that folks come to us is because we are so small, and our overhead is so low, we don't have to work with people who choose to bend the rules. And so we don't. And we were fortunate enough to work with Brendan and Kevin and Jared and Charles and Ryan on a deal. I've worked with Ryan and Charles on several deals, to the point that I have that comfort level that we can provide those services. So is it a traditional attorney's role? So much. But so how this works is anyone who deposits money in this escrow account should know that in South Carolina, the quickest way for a lawyer to lose their law license is for something to go sideways, to use a term, with their trust account. So when we do this, we do a lot of paperwork. The bar looks at our trust account. They are, when I sign the trust account paperwork with the bank, I tell the bar that they can look at whatever they want to look at whenever they want to look at it. Also, we reconcile our trust account every evening. And so, as Brendan was saying, we've set up a Woodside Mill trust account. What we would want to do is have an individual escrow agreement with each investor, which gives you the authority to tell me what to do. The law says I can't touch that money. The law also says that nobody else but you can touch that money. So that's sort of how we are set up, gentlemen. I know that there was some concern regarding insurance, and we deposit accounts in the United States. Forget about the economics history. Those are insured. We had a novel question about insuring this trust account. I've not seen that before. We've been very blessed in the last 30 days. We've handled about $160 million worth of closings and just didn't really think about it because of the way the process sort of flows. However, we want anybody who works with us to have that same comfort level. So we're exploring some other options that may be able to provide a comfort level there with regard to mitigating risk. One of those may be just us investing in a bond. I don't know. We just haven't had this come up before. The bank hasn't, and a couple of my colleagues with whom I've addressed this have not dealt with that either. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm happy to help any way we can. Our team's here for you.
Thank you for the information. For example, like we have with our attorneys, like a fidelity fund. So when we employ money with the attorney firm or investing, etc., whatever reason, they hold the money. If, for example, something doesn't work out, then the investor is protected by the fidelity fund. They don't have something similar in the States.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
And I've sort of asked around. There's a victims fund, but that's in the case of fraud or something like that. And I would be the victim of some pretty harsh stuff if something went sideways, especially for my wife, gentlemen. Let's just be frank here.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Brendan. So we'll hear from you in the next couple of days.
Yes.
And guys, if I can close, I want to say thank you for your time. And Charles and I will be acting as owners reps for Infiniti and for everybody that invests in this project. It includes, if you guys do, you'll have my cell phone number. You can contact me directly. We have our hands acting as co-developers as well on every piece of this project for the simple purpose of we're able to answer any questions when you have them or get the answer to you as quickly as we can. We really enjoy working with Kevin and Brendan. We try to be an open book as much as we can, and that will extend out to you guys, and you'll be able to call us at any point. The rest of our team is also right down to Michael. We will provide excellent customer service here. We like to be an open book and not keep anything to ourselves. So please come to Greenville, come visit, and thank you for your time today.
Right, thank you
Wonderful.
too.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Andy.
Thank you.
You're folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I think Brendan's going to stay on. Any other questions? The others will go. Ricky.
Just checking out my batteries.
Nice to meet people.
Yeah. I'll just give you a little bit of history. So back to the Amway story. The people with the biggest Amway network in the world is a family called the Dorman family. And because of the wealth that they created through the Amway business, they started their own family office. So I've been working with them for obviously the last 25 years. They have to pay me every month for 22 years, and they pay me late. There's never been a discrepancy. And when there has been, we do a pay first and do a wash-up calculation of, which doesn't really work anywhere. So through that relationship is how I got to these guys. What's the owner's rep's name?
Right.
No, I mean, it's
John Gumpert.
Gumpert. On our first project we did, he was the owner's rep for us on that project. And he was involved in that project with us. And that's how we got to meet Ryan and Charles, and through Randy as well, who runs the Dorman family office. Also met out, who's the guarantor on this project, who's put that 800,000.
Okay.
Just to give you some history, we've done a couple of deals with them already.
Yeah.
So that's where the link is.
All right. Yeah, look, ultimately, I'd like to see how far stack up. But as I said at the outset, my concern is the pool's this big, and there's a lot coming on stream.
Yeah.
You're sitting at the arse end of it.
Yeah.
And if I had to take $1 million, risk it in a market like that, or would I risk it here? And the answer is simple: I risk it here.
Understand.
Because it's a known market.
It's known to you.
Well, you know, so if you look at the facts there, the facts are the facts. You know, currently under construction there are 1,300 units that are coming on stream in the next 12 months. Under construction there's another 1,082 units. So then after that we'll bring another 300. Look at the size of the market. It's size.
Can you send me where you're getting those facts from? Please.
The Greenville is one.
Yeah.
Many hours. The Greenville
And how many people are there in Stellenbosch? Because Greenville County is 500,000.
Greenville's got 145,000. That's according to the report that was done by your.
As the micro, as the micro suburb, and then the county is 500.
The thing is, you can't say county. It's like Stellenbosch is a town. Greenville's like a town.
Okay.
So Stellenbosch got 155,000. Greenville's got 145,000.
Would that be a fair comparison from a US South Africa?
I'm just talking numbers.
Yeah, but the suburbs are different.
Everyone's contributing.
So let's say we're going to put 300 units in Cape Town CBD.
So there's 20 billion rand for the property coming online.
Well, look how much, from a numbers point of view, the amount of units coming on stream in Cape Town is not similar to the amount of units that are coming on stream in Greenville. In Greenville, you've got over 3,000 units coming on stream. In Cape Town, you don't have over 3,000 units coming on stream. So if you say you don't want to compare Stellenbosch, fine, then next to Cape Town. And that's, to me, that's the risk profile. There are too many unknowns. And if a bank doesn't want to put money in a project, then you get, it's like a guy who says, you know what, comes to borrow money from you. With the bank not giving money. Why would the bank not give him money? Because the bank looks and says, it's too risky. So I've got no vested interest.
No, I understand, Sam.
So I just look at it from, I've been in property for 27 years.
I understand.
I look at it from the outside in and I say, these are my friends and they're my clients. So what Mike is good at, I know nothing about.
Yes.
And Dirk knows more than I think both of us put together. The accountant. But property is my thing. And I'm not saying I know property in the States, because I don't. But the property fundamentals, wherever you are in the world, it's exactly the same. And rather buy the carcass property in the best area than the worst property in the carcass hospital. Rather buy the worst property in the best area than the best property in the carcass area. And you've got to look at your risk profile. Risk equals return. Here you're looking at returns that are outside of the norm within the US. And but that's directly related to your risk factor. You know, it's like saying, you know, I can go buy a block of flats in Macassar or in Coburg Road. I'm going to get an 18-20% return. Or I can go buy a block of flats in Newlands and get a 6.5% return. Where would I buy? Buy Newlands, because I'm going to have capital growth, which I'm not going to have up there. I'm going to have more reputable tenants, which I'm not going to have up there. So the risk is directly related to your return. And to me, in all honesty, this is a very risky project with a lot of numbers, and the property cycle in the States is almost full. So it's getting to the downturn. You don't want to bring 300 units onto the market in a down market. So even in a hot market, if you say to me they're going to come on stream tomorrow, I'd still say I'm hesitant because of the amount of units that's currently planned, that is under construction, and that's what's coming on stream.
Just a quick one. What is the radius? We spoke about the previous mill. The tenants that occupy space here, are they in a 30-mile radius? Is that right? Give or take?
No.
Yeah, no, they're in a 3-mile radius.
The 3 mile. So all the tenants are 3-mile radius.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a let's say in a 5-mile radius, what would you say the population would be in a 5-mile radius of this specific mill as proposed? Like give or take.
That's an interesting question. I'd have to go and research it. But Greenville, like the MSA itself, has got about 1.4 million people. It's only an hour's drive from Atlanta, and people drive ridiculous distances in the US. In terms of the actual MSA on only Greenville in 2015 or something, they were at 884,000. And their population growth is about about 1.5% a year. So it's faster than the national average, which is 1% a year. So there are more people moving in there than there are leaving. What's also interesting, if we just zoom out for a second and ask ourselves, why would people move to Atlanta or South Carolina, et cetera, et cetera? And most of the time it's for jobs. So what kind of jobs are coming online? We've got manufacturing jobs, tech jobs, a lot of government-related jobs like Navy, Army, that type of stuff. We've got the BMW factory over there. We've got Michelin Tires factory over there. So we've got a hell of a lot of jobs being created in that area. We also have a lifestyle, sort of a cost of living, where people moving to South Carolina get more value for their dollar for the lifestyle that they live in South Carolina than in most other states in the US, which is drawing people in. So there's a bunch of reasons why Greenville is growing at the rate that it is growing at. And most of it's related to people moving in there for jobs. So to answer some of those questions, yes, I think in terms of the number of units that are coming online, that's got an inherent risk in it. You don't want to be in an oversaturated market trying to compete for tenants. And the other side of that argument is, if we're the best in class in terms of the type of units available at that time, and we're cheaper than everybody else, the chances are that we are going to get tenants either at their time of renewal or when people are moving into town. So I think to get 300 people to move into that mill in the USA, I think is going to be an easy task, actually. I've had the fortunate position of actually being there, driving the city, checking it out. I think we will not have a problem at all getting tenants in a reasonable amount of time.
Brandon, between now and when yours comes on stream, you've got over 3,000 units becoming available.
I think it's a tiny drop in the ocean of what's possible in that market. I think the demand there is going to be and will continue to be quite substantial, especially for a product of this nature. If you've got 3,000 units and they're all kind of this wood facade with vinyl finishing, low ceilings, and you bringing on something that's much bigger, got better amenities, high beautiful ceilings, etc. We're going to be best in class in that market. We're going to tenant up before anybody else. And in if you look at only 300 people to fill up the space out of, if it's 70,000 of the downtown Greenville area or it's 800,000 of the MSA, I think we've got a very strong chance of getting 300 people in 12 months.
When they talk about 3,000, okay, the figure came up about 3,000. What I want to just ask you is, what has it sort of been as an aggregate? So I understand, I mean, I don't know about the 3,000 figure, Sam raised that. So I understand it might be 3,000 now, but how's the aggregate been over time? Has it been averaging that? Is it that suddenly just one big lux for 3,000?
I don't know. I'll have to go and check it out for you.
Just curious.
What I do know, so I don't know the answer to that question. I'm actually going to make a note of it here so that I go check it out. What I do know is we're not jumping onto a new trend over here. So multifamily, if you look at the two kind of major real estate sectors that I, Brendan, would want to be in anywhere in the world, and primarily in a first world nation, it's two sectors. One is medical and the other one is multifamily. And the reason is people still need a place to live, and the urban millennial movement is massive. It's a trend around the world, and it's of particular note in the US, where people want to move to nice accommodation that's lock up and go, that's walking distance to cool little hipster coffee shops and breweries and restaurants and little bars and that type of stuff. So that movement is massive, and that's what's driving the prices of multifamily and the cap rates to go down to, I mean, you're looking at second and third tier markets trading at a 4.5-5% cap rate for stabilized rental. If we had to pro forma this project at a 4.5% cap rate, this is like a $90 million building. So it's a huge movement and a massive trend in the US for the millennials to move into multifamily apartment blocks, especially if they've got really nice amenities. So from that perspective, when I'm looking at projects, I want to know, out of everything that's available in the US, there's only two that I want to be buying with my own money. One is multifamily, and the other one is medical. In terms of everything else, I don't want to be in industrial. I don't want to be in retail. I don't want to touch retail at all unless I'm buying an empty retail and converting it to multifamily or medical. So the multifamily space is really, really good and has traded well through the downturn in 2008, created some opportunities, but has continued to trade well since then. And if you look at a 50-year history, multifamily has just outperformed everything else in the US residential market.
I understood earlier the potential before it was raised about people migrating across from previous mills. I saw that. What I want to ask you on that is that I wonder if that's happened before with other mills. So, for example, they've come on at a rental of maybe, say, just keep it simple, $100, and a new one came on at, say, $80. And obviously now they've moved from that mill to the new one. My question to that is that, did it create a price war? Or do you think this could create a price war where that existing mill might have to reduce all their rentals because otherwise they're going to lose all their tenants? Is that a norm that happens? Or
Yeah, it can happen. I mean, I've seen that type of stuff happen in really, really overheated markets. I can remember driving in Phoenix and seeing some stuff that was going on, and then you see the signs outside that say, 2 months free rent and a TV if you'll move in today, or move-in assistance of $1,000 and a free TV. When you start seeing those type of signs go up outside the buildings, then these guys are sitting with 30-40% of their stuff vacant. They don't know what to do with it. They're prepared to put anybody in there just to get a lease signed. And you definitely don't want to be in a situation like that. What I like about the Atlanta market is even when we were driving around buying houses from on the courthouse steps, the multifamily stuff was all full and continually full. Like when we looked at buildings, even the ones that were going into foreclosure, they were still 80 to 90% full. So we'd arrive and we have to plan a tour where we've got to get permission from the tenants to view and all that type of stuff. So it was quite interesting looking at that stuff 3-4 years ago when we were still trying to, really understand the US market and what to buy and how to buy, et cetera, et cetera. And I can tell you that after looking at all of that stuff, I only want to be in multifamily. But the problem is to buy multifamily now off the shelf, you've got to be prepared to pay a 5.5% cap rate, and then it's overpriced, and you're buying at the top of the market. And the only way to get good quality deals is to develop them. And what's unique about this one is the building already exists. I love that, because I don't want to go and have to spend 2 years doing all the work that these guys have been doing on a brand new build, and then come out the ground and have to bring those units onto market 2 years down the line in a completely different market that we don't understand. Right now, the building exists. We've got proof of concept from another 2 mills already. If we break this down to the simple kind of decision-making questions, is I think what would be massively valuable is to actually get on a plane and come with us and go and meet the guys in person, drive the city, check it out for yourself. I mean, when I got to have lunch there in downtown Greenville, it was mind-blowing what the city spent to make it awesome. They're actually achieving higher rates per room per night in downtown Greenville than anywhere else in the US because of the shortage of hotel rooms. Because of what Greenville's done, they've made it a tourist destination to go and visit the city. So they've got a nice historic walk. They're right on the river. So it's quite a beautiful downtown area where it's not too big that it's overwhelming, and it's not too small that there's not enough people and cool stuff to do. So it's a very cool place to go visit. So I think if you are taking this deal seriously, we should schedule a trip out there as soon as possible so that you can actually go and check it out for yourself.
And look, I do appreciate the fact that you, this far down the line, you've done a lot of process of elimination to find a specific mill. So I can understand. I don't think I can even grasp how much you've knocked out the way just to try and get to the specific mill. So I make a lot of work into it. And I said to Ricky already, I said to him that that would be my next stage. So my next stage would obviously be is we look at the numbers, crunch the numbers, and then from there get in the plane, and I would definitely come through. What I want to just ask you is on the existing mills or this proposed mill, how far do you think people commute? I don't know your area, so how far do they commute from their place of residence? So the family, the staying in the do they travel? Are they an hour out, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
No, we're about 2 miles from downtown, so it would take them 8 minutes to get into town. So
my question is that from their workplace, are they prepared? Like, for example, in Cape Town, people are prepared to travel an hour and a half to get to work, an hour to get to work. What is the sort of norm there in that area?
The norm in Atlanta is generally to travel for about 45 minutes to an hour, one direction. So 45 minutes to an hour in, 45 minutes to an hour out. In Greenville, that's a slightly smaller market. We found in other research on smaller markets that generally it's about half an hour, 25 to 30 minutes. Our site over there is within an 8-minute drive or a 20-minute cycle of anywhere in downtown. So it's, and not even at 20 minutes. I mean, it's really, really, really quick to get there. We've got no issues with that. I think the furthest job site from us is BMW, which is the other side of town, and that's about a 15-minute drive.
Okay. Yeah. And I see BMW has obviously grown over the years, and they've opened up more, and they've created more employment. Have you had a drop-off in any particular businesses that have closed down and relocated or something?
I haven't seen any of that. Obviously, the guys didn't really put that information into their market study. All I can say is when we were driving there, the place was bustling. I didn't see any empty shops. I didn't see any that's talking about downtown Greenville. I mean, downtown Greenville was really, really, really like top-notch, bustling, really a great place to be. When we got to close to our site, that little West Village area, like they were saying, it's kind of an up-and-coming. I'd equate it to kind of like what's a cool place in Cape Town? Like a bit of a trendy, almost like Rondebosch, like a historic, trendy kind of place where youngsters want to be and want to chill out and want to spend time. And they've got a bunch of cool new shops and new restaurants that are all doing well. And when we drove down there, they were all busy. So from that perspective, it's a nice place to be. And in general, I've seen it, businesses are doing well there and starting new ones more than closing. I'm not seeing empty petrol stations and empty boarded up shopping complexes. You know, the telltale signs that the place is stuffed and you don't want to touch it with a barge pole. They weren't there in that market. I was comfortable with it.
All right. I think the numbers will work out because you already crunched the numbers, so we look forward to seeing it a bit later. I think my important thing to me, you've answered pretty much everything else satisfactory. My important thing would just be and I want to just say it again, just in case, so you there have made a note, and that is just to see, if you look at like the last 5 years, for example, how many of these specific family hubs have come onto the market. So Sam is talking about 3,000 now, but just how's it been on a sort of a aggregate, you know what I mean? So in other words, maybe 5 years ago, there's like maybe 500 coming on, maybe there's 2,000. Maybe it's always been 3, or maybe it's 3,000, but and that 3,000 Sam's talking about. Now, I haven't seen that figure myself. I wonder how that's broken up. Is that going to be over a period of 2 years or a year? I'm not quite sure where he's getting that from, but I could always ask him. But he had to, unfortunately, run to a meeting. But that would be my important question to understand.
Thank you very much. Sorry, my kids just got home. Yeah. So just say hello quickly. Okay. Alyssa, go. Mommy, I'll be in 5 minutes. Her name's Alyssa.
Hello, how are you?
I think it's going through.
It's going through my earphones. So that's Uncle Mike over there, and he says hello.
Hello.
Okay, Alyssa, just go sit there with Mommy. I'll be there in 2 minutes. Okay. Please go. Thank you.
Okay, cool. That's my only real question, yeah. And that's one of my main questions I'd like to.
Perfect. I've got it down over here, and I'll make sure that I address it with the guys. So the units being built now, and the absorption rates, and
just a bit of the last 5 years being built in a similar environment, you know.
I think a lot of it is in that market study too, Brendan.
Yeah. I'll check it out.
I'll extract it out.
It's about 600 pages altogether.
There's a reason I can't remember all of it either, because I read it about a month and a half ago, and in the meantime, I've been writing operating agreements and moving money and seeing clients, and I'm like, whoa, all those numbers were coming fast and furious, and I read that about 6 weeks ago. I probably should have read it again before the meeting, but I will go through it again.
There's no rush. No, thanks. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks, and thanks for the time today, guys. It was really good to meet you. I look forward to meeting you in person, man.
No, likewise. All right. Happy to be soon. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Okay, great. So let's see.